everyone. Welcome back to another very special, very doubled episode of Star Trek Lower Decks versus Filmation Star Trek. We are part of Uncanny Treks. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Matt, how the hell are you doing tonight?
Doing all right, Bob. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's been a week since I watched this episode. I remember most of what happened. Watch my recaps and stuff on YouTube to make sure I didn't miss any little Easter eggs. So I think I'm pretty good. But apologies for us having these little breaks. Our technology is giving us issues, but we will be back to regularly scheduled episodes weekly once we get all that fixed.
Yeah, and if the people really want us weekly, patreon.com/uncannytreks.
Yeah, go for it. We could quit our day jobs.
Yeah,
We could be
yeah,
influencers.
Yeah. And I just want to stress for me that day jobs, plural, is correct.
Yeah,
I got 3 of them, man. I got 3 of them.
Just 3. No biggie.
Just 3.
You only need,
Totally
6
normal.
hours of sleep. You're good. All right.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, so tonight we're talking about the episode 8s of Lower Decks Season 4 and Filmation Star Trek Season 1, and then we're talking about the episode 9s of Lower Decks Season 4 and Filmation Star Trek Season 1. So that's Caves, which originally aired on the 19th of October 2023, the Lower Decks episode 8. Magicks of Megas 2, which originally aired on the 27th of October 73. That's Filmation episode 8. And then we've got, what is it? Is it the inner? I thought it was the inner flight at first, but apparently I am, what's the word for that?
There are lots of words I could use there, but I
Dyslexic.
Okay.
That's regarded as another one, perhaps.
Yeah,
but yes.
don't be
Inner
dissing,
Fight.
Bob. Don't be dissing.
Yep. Inner Fight, 27th of October 2023 is our penultimate episode of Lower Decks Season 4. And then finally, Once Upon a Planet is episode 9 of Filmation Star Trek. Not in any sense the penultimate episode of Filmation Star Trek Season 1, but the next to last Filmation Star Trek episode we're going to cover for right now until Lower Decks Season 5 returns. So, Matt, what is the plot of the Caves episode of Lower Decks?
Well, the plot is this is an anthology episode where they talk about several adventures they have had in caves.
Yeah. As the name would suggest, it's an anthology episode about caves.
Yeah.
So, Matt, I guess to lead off with, since this is a debate among the Fantastic Four, would you consider yourself pro or anti-cave?
Well, Bob, I have journeyed into 3 different caves in my lifetime, and absolutely nothing of interest happened in any of them.
Well, was one of them a cave with a spring attached, perhaps, Matt?
Cave with a spring? No. It was all Cave Springs. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes, Bob. That is one of them. Another was in Texas, in San Antonio, Texas. And the other one is in Ruby Falls.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been to the Ruby Falls one, although I'd forgotten it till you said it. I've obviously been to Cave Springs, and I feel like I went into a cave at the Natural Bridge in Virginia, but I can't remember for sure if I did. I don't know. I feel like I'm more pro cave than you, but you have much more distinct memories of caves, so I'm not really sure what that says about my memory or intelligence.
Well, Bob, it's primarily when you go into a cave, there's just nothing really to look at, and it's kind of cold, and everything just seems kind of damp and muggy, and you're way under the ground, so if you're even a slight bit claustrophobic, you're going to feel it.
Not storm, so I'm fine with that. And, as a guy who suffers from eye strain, I like not having much to look at. Yeah.
I'll tell you, caves are so interesting, aren't they, Bob?
So, did this episode strike you as, say, a little more postmodern, a little more self-conscious than prior Lower Decks episodes?
Yeah, Bob, this episode was very self-aware, just kind of them talking about what's going on show-wise. Like, they didn't quite break the fourth wall or anything at this point, but I feel like there was much more self-awareness in this episode than in others we've seen.
Yeah, it was like they felt like they had to hard go back to the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Rutherford, Boimler, Mariner, and Tendi after episodes where they're still the most important things about the show, but they've branched the show out a little and are doing more ongoing plots, etc.
It's different. It hit me with this particular episode, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more in the next episode, the 9th episode. But this one definitely some self-awareness toward the beginning.
Yeah. And I guess to go back to the cave issue, there was a line, just the right amount of moist. I can't remember if that was like a Rutherford or a Tendy line, but I think I'm going to start using that line to troll my boy Alan, who thinks moist is the most disgusting word in the English language.
Okay, Bob, I tried my absolute best to come up with another word that I hate, and I did research actually on it because I could not. I know there are words out there that are worse. The only one I could come up with was gestate.
See, I think that just shows that you're sexist and anti-childbirth, Matt.
Gestate. It's being created.
Yeah.
Gestate just sounds gross. It's gestating.
Gestation.
Gestation.
I think
It sounds gross. No, it's disgusting sounding. Gestation. There's something about that word.
I think this is kind of the inverse of, while I'm not horrified by moist and gestate. Do you remember Donnie Darko?
Yes, I do remember Donnie Darko.
So
I know
that
where you're going with this.
Yeah. That film has this, and it's a meme that goes beyond the film and predates the film. But they talk about cellar door being the most beautiful phrase in the English language, and like in the same way that I don't have anything against cellar or door, but it doesn't do anything for me. I don't think it's particularly beautiful, nor do I think moist or gestate is particularly aesthetically offensive.
Well, Bob, we all have opinions. And most people think that cellar door is one of the most beautiful words because it was in Donnie Darko, and that's what Drew Barrymore said.
Again, it predates the movie.
Drew Barrymore was canceled though, Bob. So I don't follow her.
And she one of the rare cancellations where they should have been canceled.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, screw her for crossing a picket line.
Scab.
Yep, exactly. I will also say, on the subject of cave stuff, I really do like the idea of carnivorous moss in a cave. It's a very cool idea.
Can you imagine having to go into like a cave and fight off wild plants? Or even if you had wild plants on your way to work. You're just driving along the side of the road, you stop at the stoplight, and here come a bunch of like bushes trying to attack your car.
Well, Matt, there's a really excellent British horror science fiction film from, I believe, 1961 called Day of the Triffids. We should watch it sometime. It's really fun.
I'll have to check that out.
It's kind of like a zombie film, but with plants.
So, Bob, with taking public transportation, would you ward off the plants to help society? I can imagine you with your Gatling gun on the side of the bus.
I actually do sometimes do yard work for free for my landlords, just because I really hate vines and really hate thorn bushes.
Yeah.
And I find a visceral pleasure in ripping them out. So
well, there you go.
Yeah, I get really uncomfortable with those people who are very enthusiastic about the zombie apocalypse and clearly just want to murder black people, and murdering zombies is the socially acceptable way they feel like they can channel that. I think that's
big opinion there, Bob.
Am I wrong, Matt? Am I wrong?
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I think that
Thank you.
I mean, our culture loves those zombie things, and I don't know why. And now, yeah.
Now you know.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, you're welcome, Matt. You're welcome.
Most people are racist. That's so sad. It makes me cry. Yes.
Yeah. But
what better than Uncanny Treks, folks, to remind you that society is primarily racist, but we love Star Trek.
Yeah. One day it won't be. That's the Star Trek promise.
That's our goal.
But that said, that enthusiasm that racists have for, at least some racists have for zombie films, I think I would have for killing plants, Matt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hate yard work. I just hate it, period. I just wish plants could just grow and take over the world again. I'm one of those people that would not mind having a freaking random giant unbrushed, uncut garden in my front yard. Just as long as I get my cars in and out of the driveway.
You're right that there is a certain aesthetic pleasure to the overgrown city,
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's out. It's just natural. It's like nature's oh yeah, just to remind you. Oh, we'll just take over your shit. That's you build the tallest building. Trust me, we'll grow it even higher.
As the saying that got very popular during the pandemic goes, nature is healing, Matt.
There you go. Yeah, that's awful. Now that I think about it. Yes, that's awful. Okay.
I don't think that's awful. I think that it's fine.
So many people are dying. We're healing. It's a healing.
I mean, I guess when you look at it like that.
Yeah, Bob. I thought you meant there's too many people in the world, so it's healing itself back. Sending out a plague.
I'm I'm not gonna get into an overpopulation debate on a Star Trek episode.
I agree, Bob. Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
Let's stay clear of that conversation.
Yeah. But another conversation where somebody does not steer clear of something, Matt.
Yeah, Rutherford tells Boimler to take off his pants, Bob.
Immediate compliance, immediate subtext.
Boimler does not question it. Boimler just takes his pants off.
Although it is pretty funny that after they use Boimler's pants, he's like, "You really could have just used my shirt."
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's very true.
So, Matt, when Tendi first starts trying to reminisce about the Turbolift story that people keep shutting her down on, was that when you realized that this was going to be an anthology episode?
I thought they were going to try to make a good clip show.
What? I mean, I know what you mean, but what would a good clip show even mean? Is the question, I guess.
Here's what a good clip show would look like, and you may disagree with me. If they set it up like Mystery Science Theater.
Oh, with their like commenting
there
over
you go.
Their memories.
You got
it. I hate Mystery Science Theater, but that is a really funny idea, and you should send that into the writers' room.
That way you're
season 5.
Right. That
That's
way
a good idea.
You're getting old content visually, but you're getting new commentary. So at least there's a reason to watch it.
And you could visually have their foreshadows at the bottom of the screen.
And let's be honest, Bob. We consume so much Star Trek that I have a lot of trouble keeping up with what happened when. So a clip show this far into would not, I mean, if done well, would actually help me. So I don't have to go back on YouTube and watch their versions of recaps.
Well, see, my thought when you said it was actually a little bit, it's similar, but a little bit in the opposite direction of, we've noted before that even though I like this show quite a bit, I have a pretty hard time remembering like what the reoccurring bits are, the reoccurring gags are. And so, my worry if it had, and I also was worried it was going to be a clip show, but my worry with the clip show is like, oh man, I'm just going to vaguely remember what they're showing, and it's going to like frustrate me and cause me to have to go down like memory alpha rabbit holes. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I did realize it was an anthology show, I was a little disappointed because that's just a lot of stories they told in a very short amount of time. Yeah. And I'm gonna give you an example, Bob. One of the more famous anthology episodes that I remember is the Batman Animated Series episode "Almost Got Him."
Okay? Oh yeah, that's a good example.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you a question. Can you tell me what happens with each character's story when they tell it?
I should be able to, but I can't really. The only one I really remember vividly is the Killer Croc story that isn't, because it's just Killer Croc being like, I threw a rock at him.
There you go. That's all anybody remembers. And then you find in the mainline story of that, it was actually Batman as Killer Croc.
Well, not to like English Professor you, but it's like, you'd call that like the frame narrative. Yeah. It is interesting that in both cases, like the frame narrative of the Batman Almost Got Him episode and the frame narrative of this episode are more memorable in their way than any of the stories they tell, even though the stories are supposed to be memorable.
Right, because I don't remember any of the stories from that animated series episode. I know like Penguin was involved, I think. Joker was one of them. I don't know what they did.
I believe, I want to say Penguin, Joker, Two-Face, and Poison Ivy.
That sounds about right. That sounds right.
And I actually am a little embarrassed I can't remember it better because I did have like a storybook adaptation of that episode.
Yeah, and I probably watched that episode 100 times, but I cannot remember because I just know that it's just the main, like you said, the main story or whatever, the main, what'd you call it, the frame?
The frame narrative.
The frame narrative is the best part of that.
Yeah.
Because it's so memorable.
You wouldn't call it the main story usually because usually it gets less time and is less vivid than the told stories. Right. Although that's almost got him, maybe challenges that a little because you as the viewer are kind of watching to see, will Batman get him, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. But Bob, there was someone that showed up in this episode that I did not expect to see.
Yeah, Matt. See, you may have questioned me making us watch Filmation Star Trek, but if you hadn't seen the Survivor episode 2 weeks ago from Filmation Star Trek, you would have had no idea who the Vendorians were when Levy, Boimler's little buddy, started conspiracy theorizing about them.
Well, thank you, Bob. Now I know what a nerdgasm feels like. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And I also... Have we already broken the explicit tag on this episode, Matt?
Probably, Bob. And I want to point something out to you, Bob, that I don't think you've ever known. I choose whether or not to hit the explicit button.
Oh, I thought like I thought an AI
No,
thing.
no. And if I know I use the word, and I could probably just beat these out. If I know I use the word "fuck," like I just put explicit, just so people know.
Well, fuck Moimler, Matt.
There you go.
Wolf 359 was a tragedy, but it's also the very definition of an inside job. Like, obviously, it was an inside job in some sense. So he should not be shutting Levy's conspiracy theories down. The man needs a fair hearing.
Bob, you love conspiracy theories.
I do. They're awesome.
Where did this love of conspiracy theories come from?
One of our high school teachers gave me a conspiracy theory book about the Federal Reserve in high school.
Okay. I knew it was something. Something just spawned this in you, because I know if I have any conspiracy theory questions, you're the one to go to.
Well, it's partially that I think they're hilarious. It's just like they're very cool, just like in the same way that like Star Trek or superhero mythology is very cool. And but it's also because like I don't believe most of the major right-wing conspiracy theories, but they do like in a weird way reflect what reality is. Like reality is controlled by a small group of people.
Yes.
It's just they're capitalist, not Jewish. And so like I also think there's a lot more like both moral and allegorical truth to them than people sometimes are willing to admit.
Oh, I agree with that 100%, because I've even been led to some of these conspiracy theories. I'm like, that sounds actually pretty plausible.
There's two great podcasts. One is called TrueAnon that's launched to like cover Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and it covers it in like a responsible way, but it like after Epstein didn't kill himself, it's just, of course, like conspiracy theories are real, like full stop, there it is. Like what more do you need, at least to a certain level. And then there's also a really good podcast called QAnon Anonymous that I don't always agree with them, but they are very good at like examining the different corners of conspiracy thinking, especially but not only right-wing conspiracy thinking.
All right, so let's go back to your Wolf 359 conspiracy, okay?
Yeah.
What you're basically saying is that Locutus of Borg was allowed by the Federation to go into the Borg or become a Borg.
I don't know
Is that
about
what you're saying?
but I'm just saying the definition of an inside job, right, is that somebody inside the hierarchy collaborates in the production of the thing. And definitely, definitionally, that is true of Wolf 359, just because Picard is Locutus.
Right. Okay.
Now, whether there's like other complicity, is an interesting question. But I think you can't just say it wasn't an inside job, because it was.
Well, yeah.
And you also you can't just automatically shut down inquiry about it. So, Matt, the Vendorians are real. Another conspiracy theory that's indicated. But here they're a little different than we saw them in The Survivor. They're basically doing a morality test for the Fantastic Four. And it seems a little out of character compared to how they were presented in the Filmation episode Survivor. Did you have any thoughts about that?
Well, they've evolved as a species.
Okay.
Over the last how many years? How many years would this be? Like 40?
About 100.
Oh, hundreds? Yeah, they evolved a lot, Bob.
Yeah, roughly it's 100 years between Next Gen and original series, roughly. Okay. Maybe they evolved. I like the possibility, too, that even though it didn't come up in The Survivor, in The Survivor, they just treat them as like, oh, they're this totally evil, totally other species. But what if they've always been doing that, and that's why the Federation finds them so annoying? They're always posing these moral dilemmas. So that's why their planet is interdicted.
What a bunch of assholes. Just we'll just constantly put you in these moral quandaries, and you have to find your way out.
I don't think you're going to get this reference, but if any of our listeners do, I'll make it. They're literally the Peter Singer of alien species.
Nope. Does not ring a bell, Bob, but that's okay. Someone out there is going to get it. Someone out there is having a belly laugh.
I hope so. So, Matt, I was pretty sure, although I thought it was better for the show if I didn't check, but I was pretty sure, was Captain Freeman voicing one of the Vendorians?
It was either her or James Doohan.
Ayo. And then, did you like the xenomorph angle that they added to the Vendorians?
I mean, it was okay. I don't know if it was necessary.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably mostly just an homage to Alien.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it would have been about Yeah, that's right. Yeah, about the same time.
And then a very important question, Matt. Would you eat a Vendorian cricket?
No, Bob, I'm not going to touch a Vendorian cricket.
What if you were in a similar scenario to Boimler and what's his face, the conspiracy theorist, Levy? What if you were in a similar situation of Boimler and Levy, and you felt, shall we say, coerced or pressured, or there was an implication that if you didn't eat the cricket, things would go wrong for you? Would you eat the cricket then?
I don't know, Bob. If they're forcing me to eat a cricket, I'd be nervous.
Matt's like, things already have gone wrong.
Yeah. I'm not gonna eat a fucking cricket. Like I just don't plan on doing it. Not on an alien planet. Not on nothing. No, not do it. Not from a Vendorian. Not eating Vendorian cricket. No.
Yeah. And I also just want to emphasize that, I talk a lot of crap about liberals on this show, but this is an episode, in general, New Star Trek is for based liberals, because in this little story with Levy, Boimler learns that sometimes conspiracy theorists are right, because Wolf 359 was an inside job and the Vendorians are real. See, just like the season 2 premiere of Strange New Worlds, which warns us against false flag operations in regions of the galaxy that are at great tension between two major powers. Do you see an application to present day geopolitics, Matt?
I don't know, Bob. You should write one of these books that they sell at Barnes and Noble. Like, what is it called? Like Star Trek and politics or some bullshit. Star Trek and economics or whatever the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, if I were to write a book, Matt, I couldn't do better than having the first line. So I had a cave baby with Dr. Tiana.
Yeah, that was brilliant, Bob. It threw me. I usually when I'm watching these shows, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm watching, and I'll look down at my phone, or I'm in the middle of doing something, just kind of listening. That I had to stop and look, because I was like, what the hell did he just say?
And it is really funny how both Boiler and Rutherford stories involve male pregnancy.
Yeah, Bob, they really are alluding to something here. This episode just sticks out like a sore thumb when it comes to their...
Well, I don't know if the male pregnancy thing... I mean, maybe it is involved with the Boimler-Rutherford subtext, but there also just is an old trope of using... there's an old trope of male pregnancy stories in science fiction, right? Like Alien being a famous example, and then another example I dearly love would be Octavia Butler's short story Bloodchild. So I think they're just playing into an existing science fiction trope, and then
which is also primarily like a male fear of we never know we have no clue what childbirth is like, so we're like nope. So we're freaking out and we see, we're like, damn, that's gonna be painful, Rutherford. But if it was like Tindy, we'd be like, she's just giving birth.
Yeah. Although involuntary pregnancy, always horrific.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Thank you for throwing that out there. Yes, that is 100% true. Yes.
I will say, I also kind of had the feeling that they wrote the Rutherford Tiana story to make up for Rutherford being a bad father to Badgie. So now we have this image of him and Dr. T being a great parents.
Yeah, I think it's an apology, Bob, because even though we both voted Rutherford as best dad on the last episode.
Yeah. And I think when I was re-listening to that episode, I realized we weren't clear enough about that poll. It was best dad of the bad Star Trek dads. That's why Picard wasn't on the list.
Oh yeah. Well,
I think that was my failure of introduction. Also, why Jack Crusher wasn't on the list. It was the best of the bad Star Trek dads.
Yeah. Well, I guess in the case of Rutherford, at least he apologizes for being a bad dad. He knows it. Yeah. This is what this is all about. Showing him, forcing him to show. Yeah.
It's a show apologizing for showing him as a bad dad.
It's the show forcing one of its male characters to give birth in a flashback inside a cave.
Yeah,
but gotta add that in too.
Did you catch? So to go ahead to Mariner's story, just for the sake of time, did you catch that was a remake of an original series episode?
Yeah, it's Galileo 7, and it took me a minute because the only reason I know is because I own that stupid shuttlecraft toy that was a Galileo 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I always was like, oh, I gotta watch that episode. So I actually watched that one, and
yeah, if I remember right, it's the 7 I think the 7 is the number of the Galileo shuttlecraft, but it also is the number of people in the shuttlecraft.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
It tells you how many it holds. Boy, I got my Galileo 14 up.
Well, no, because I think like the Columbia is like the 2.
Yeah.
It holds. Well, I mean, the Galileo could hold more than 7 people, although it was pretty full in that episode.
Yeah. So, Bob, let's go about the ending of this episode. This had kind of a sappy ending. And then, I mean, we're going to talk about it today, but did you feel like you were going to have something kind of more serious or painful happen in the next episode?
Oh, that's interesting. No, not really. It more just felt like a kind of way to mock anthology episodes by having it be about something as low stakes as a cave, and also a way to kind of reaffirm the bond of the Fantastic Four, since that's not been as much in focus this season since they got promoted.
Yeah, it's just that was what they did at the end. They had them all laying on top of each other, and I was like, being all happy, and I was like, I hate it when they do this because they're setting up for something painful in the next one, which they kind of do, but we'll go.
Yeah, but not really.
Not to the group itself. No.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. So let's talk about the character of the week here. My character of the week is the Vendorians, because I thought I was done talking about them for the rest of my life, but here they are again. A week later.
Just 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Here are the Vendorians. And I'll definitely give it to Dr. Tiana. She had a great episode. I really enjoyed her line that the only thing she hates more than engineers are babies.
Wow, yeah. Wow. And
All
she's
right,
a doctor, and she delivers them. That's interesting.
It's funny. It's funny.
Okay.
Well, and I mean, traditionally, cats and human babies not the best relationship.
Yeah, and I mean, cats have like litters of kittens too, so
Yeah,
it's a whole different experience. But don't they eat their offspring? Like if they're not, yeah, they do.
I think they can if they don't have enough food. Yeah.
Oh God,
I mean,
they could have gone. They could have gone so much further with the whole Rutherford story.
Yeah. I really do. I mean, this is dark, but I really want to see Dr. T eat a Betazoid before the show is over.
All right, Bob, that's a little harsh, but we'll go with it. I don't think you're going to see that at any point.
Are you going to tell me I'm wrong though?
No, I want to see it too. I didn't say that.
Yeah, see. All right, so the plot for our first Filmation Star Trek episode of today, which is the Magicks of Megas 2, it's basically the Enterprise has a diabolical time at the center of the universe, Matt.
No, Bob, it was the center of the galaxy.
Damn it, you're right, Matt. I'm wrong. Sorry.
That's right, Bob, because they've only explored the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong.
Back in
failed.
1978 or whatever, there was no.
So, did this strike you as like a first draft of Star Trek V?
Yes, very much so. And Bob gave a very simplified version of the plot, which he usually does. This is the devil's in this episode, Bob. The fucking devil, Lucifer. Lucifer.
Yeah. As I prefer to call him, the devil.
Yeah, the devil. Yeah.
So, what did you think of him looking kind of like a centaur or kind of like a satyr?
I mean, it was weird, and I don't see how they allowed this on TV in the 70s.
So, it's been a while since I looked at the production notes on Memory Alpha, but if I remember right, I think originally they wanted it to be God, but the network wouldn't allow that. So having it be the devil was how you'd say, a compromise mechanism.
How they were able to get around it, yes. Yeah, and I mean, he looks like looks like a centaur, a satyr. He's got that. Yeah. He's got the traditional devil look. I mean,
yeah. Devil, but he sort of looks like the devil, but he also sort of looks like these Greek mythology figures. It's a little interesting kind of mix of the two. And I mean, it is just deeply hilarious to me that Jimmy Doohan is voicing the devil, and then George Takei is voicing the other demon, Asmodeus. Although they don't explicitly call him a demon, but I mean, come on, his name is Asmodeus. He's a demon.
I know this is years ago, but I hope they got paid for those. And
oh yeah, surely they did.
Surely, because it seems like Jimmy Doohan, man, he must have been making bank.
Hell yeah, man. It's like $5 here, $30 here. Add it up. So Matt, this is the origin of the famous meme of Spock drawing a magic circle. Were you excited to understand where that came from?
Yeah, this is when it just all went off the rails, Bob. Spock's drawing freaking arcane imagery and circles in the middle of its room, just to try to
casting spells and waving his hands in front of him in a very wizardy sort of way.
Yeah. We've never seen Spock do this before, but we just go with it, and it's actually kind of entertaining. I mean, I give it that.
Well, and there's something nice about it too. Of like, Spock does whatever's logical. So in a dimension where magic is real, like he becomes a magician.
He uses magic. It makes sense thematically.
Yeah,
there's a logical progression there. We're good with it.
Yeah,
You take Spock to an Arby's, he'll start making beef.
Exactly.
God, I can't get the word. You take Spock to an Arby's, he'll start making roast beef sandwiches. This is how he works.
Yeah. I could tell you a story about how I went into an Arby's to have a roast beef sandwich and watch a crazy person on Thursday. It was a good time. But I'm not going to.
That's all right, Bob. I think we're all okay. We've got this story about Star Trek people meeting the devil to talk about.
We got to focus on that.
This is much more important.
So even funnier to me than Spock as a satanic magician, like doing Aleister Crowley stuff, was the image of Eric's in a tri-armed stockade, like, Salem witch trial style, like his 3 hands sticking out of the stockade. That really cracked me up.
I mean, they built that shit just for him. That's so nice of them.
Yeah. So Matt, in the spirit of the horror scenes of the Puritan demons in this episode, do you have a favorite Puritan horror movie?
You are gonna be pissed when I say this movie.
Hit me.
The Village.
I actually never saw it, so I can't. I can be suspect, and I am suspect, but I never saw it, so I can't really.
Yeah. It's one of those like guilty pleasures, Bob.
Did you see the Vivitch or the Witch?
No, I no.
Oh man, you really should. Does your wife like horror movies?
Not really, no. But
too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. So this is a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm going to say it anyway. The best thing about the Vivitch is you get to see how cheaply a starving Puritan girl will sell her soul for. It's so funny.
Oh God, it's called the Vivitch.
It's spelled witch, or it's witch, but it's often stylized like VVITCH. And so as a joke, my friends and I call it the Vivitch. It's really good. Another older one that's a good Puritan horror movies. There's, do you know the Edgar Allan Poe poem, The Conqueror Worm?
Yes, I do that.
Yeah, they made a film of it, but it's a poem that's not really about much and it's pretty short. So
right.
They just made it about Vincent Price hunting witches during like the English Civil War. The other title for it is Witchfinder General. It's actually a really good movie.
That actually sounds really entertaining.
Yeah, man. Those old Vincent Price, like 60s, 70s Edgar Allan Poe films, some of them are bad, but a couple of them, like The Witchfinder General and Mask of the Red Death, are just genius.
Bob, so one thing I have noticed with the animation in this cartoon is there are a lot of still frame shots. And I guess this was common back in the day because they just were trying to make sure they could fit the allotted time, so they just stuck it on one frame. But there was this very long-ass shot of Earth. While this visual story about these beings like doing all this really cool stuff is being told, they didn't animate any of it. They're like, the so-and-so were at war, and there was like dragons and fire, and everybody was they're just showing a shot of Earth. It's not moving.
Well, Matt, you see, I think the kids need to use their imagination, and I think that's what's wrong with kids today. So I support this cheap-ass choice in animation.
You know what we call those, Bob? You know what we call those? We call those books. Read a book if that's what you want. This is a visual medium. I want to see what's going on. All right. That doesn't really help either because books are visual mediums. But was this an early version of the?
Not in the sense you mean.
No, yeah, you have to read it. You have to see it. You have to use your eyes.
But it's not.
Yeah, but you're not seeing pictures.
You wouldn't call it a visual medium like painting or like film.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Bob. So this trial that takes place, this is an early script for Q.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly sort of the proto cues are all over the animated series and the original series and the first movies. It's kind of funny, right? Because like Gene Roddenberry, famously an atheist. One of the reasons I'm an atheist, although I was resistant to it as a kid, but it is, even though he's an atheist, the man loves to have stories where the Enterprise fights God or fights something that might as well functionally be God.
Right, and that's how this felt, in which. I don't know. It felt like you said Star Trek V earlier, and I did kind of get that. But to me, this scene with the where they're in Salem reminds me of Q because they take him somewhere that's just random ass. Just like, oh, here we are.
Yeah, and it is that interesting idea of like the god who like cosplays as something from
Yes.
human history, whether it's like the Salem witch trial or whether in the first Q episode it's like the dystopian court in the future. And you have it like with Apollo in the original series, right? And you have it with Trelane, who I think he's broadly supposed to be playing like a kind of like 18th century European nobleman, right?
Right, exactly. So, but that was my take from it. I was like, wow, this seems like it probably influenced the whole Q thing a lot more than we think it did. But
Yeah. Well, and so one of the craziest things about this, and we'll get to it a little more in a minute, but it's like Kirk really takes a strong line in favor of the devil against the demons of the episode. And I actually did like, this is a kind of a minor thing, but apparently the devil, the Lucian character in this episode, had spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. And Kirk was like, no, that's inhumane. You can't do that. And, you know, given that it's very widespread practice in American prisons, I do like that this kid's show in the 70s was at least being like, no, solitary confinement is torture. You can't do it.
so, Bob, would you say that Kirk was showing sympathy to the devil?
Indeed, Matt, I would. I think you're right. So, Matt, I do have to. So, we already talked about how this episode was like kind of a compromise formation to avoid the blasphemy of doing it with God. At least that's my memory of reading about it.
Right, that's
But
true.
if you're a fundamentalist Christian watching this episode in the early 70s, what's going to be more blasphemous to you? The fact that they all share a drink with the devil or the devil at the end of the episode, or the fact that Kirk basically serves as like a Christ figure for the devil? Like he basically comes to save and redeem the devil.
Bob, this should not. There's no. They're both weird for a cartoon. Okay, there's no. The fact that they drink with the devil afterwards, you don't drink with the devil. Period.
I don't know.
don't.
You could go into a thing about how it's maybe trying to like fulfill the potential of Christianity, because wouldn't that be like, if you know Christ is supposed to be like the Redeemer, isn't that the final test of redemption, is redeeming the devil?
But Bob, the devil's the bad guy. He's got to be the bad one.
You know, universal salvation, Matt. There's apparently some reason to believe it.
No, Bob.
Bible
The devil's
verses.
bad. Jesus is good. We're going to leave it at that.
Well, Matt, in the spirit of who's bad and who's good, who's your character of the week?
Bob, my character of the week is Paul Heyman as a Puritan.
Which is to say, George Takei as Asmodeus.
That is correct.
Yeah, I'll go with the devil. Sometimes they call him Lucian, sometimes they call him Lucifer, but he's the devil.
He is definitely the devil. And Bob, this episode, very big on morality. Both episodes, big on morality.
Yeah.
Both were kind of tests of morality.
Yeah. I feel like you learned more morally from each of them than you will for this episode of Uncanny Treks, but that's okay, because we're plunging ahead to the Lower Decks episode, Inner Fight, and not Inner Flight, as I erroneously believed initially. So, Matt, walk us through the plot of Inner Fight.
And not the Inner Light, Bob, because that's a great Star Trek.
Well, that's
missionary episode.
clearly that's the joke. Yes,
Clearly, Bob. But I need to point it out because some people might not know.
No, you're right. You did the right thing there, Matt. You did the right thing.
All right. The plot is about Crazy Mariner gets stranded on a storm planet with Boiler, Tendi, and Tiana, while the Cerritos tries to rescue the original Tom Paris on a lawless planet.
I like that you just slavishly read whatever wrong thing I put down in the notes. So you read Boiler.
I read Boiler, Bob. Bob,
No,
I work in an elementary school.
Fair.
I read little children's writing all day, and sometimes I just have to like go with it. I know you made a mistake, Bob. It's okay. It's all right to make mistakes. I didn't want to point it out, so I just read it.
I just want to say it's entirely possible that I didn't make the mistake and that Google Docs auto-corrected it. I just want to throw that out.
I am having more problems with that recently, which I think earlier today you mentioned something about AI getting worse because it's now drawing from its own AI shit.
Yeah. I didn't mention it on air, but
you did, yeah. So I'm thinking, that may be why a lot of times my autocorrect is not correcting to anything near what I want it to, and even though I'm spelling the word correctly, it still doesn't think it's correct.
Yeah, or just I mean,
Boiler.
Even the stupidest human has better contextual knowledge than the best AI.
That's true, but I mean, it did just look at it and think you accidentally typed M.
Yeah. So that. It was
logic, bitch.
All right, Matt's going 90s Captain Kirk over here, defeating the AI with logic and
Yeah.
reasoning.
Okay, hold on, Bob. I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but this is also very interesting too.
Hit me.
Yeah. So I started playing, with AI imagery, and I typed into the AI image thing. I said, "Imagine Star Trek, but in the style of X-Men, the animated series."
Oh Lord.
Actually looked okay. Actually looked kind of cool because it's like a bunch of buff buff guys, with all the pouches and shit.
Did you ever read that original, 90s Star Trek, the original
Yes,
series?
I did, and it
Crossover
looks like
comic?
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that to me though was a little too far. That was like Rob Liefeld drawing it.
I think it was Silvestri. I think it was Mark Silvestri.
I know, but I'm
Who
just
is
saying
a very
it had
90s.
that. Yeah, it had that look, is what I'm saying. The whole.
It did.
Yeah.
No, I liked it though. I liked it more than the subsequent ones with the Next Generation. I felt like were diminishing returns, but the one with the original series was pretty fun.
And if you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. They're like the buffest dudes ever.
Yeah,
Skin tight outfits.
Spock doing a Vulcan nerve pinch on Wolverine is the part I always remember.
Yeah, he's like grabbing that muscle. Like I don't think we have that muscle, but like bodybuilders do. You know what I'm talking about? Like to do the nerve pinch. Whatever that thing is, your shoulder that kind of sticks up. All right.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So, we got a crazy mariner stranded on the Storm planet, and then we've got the Cerritos on a rescue mission. I will say, in this episode, it was amusing to see a lot more of Mariner's disdain for non-Starfleet scientists and for specialists. Although we sort of, later on, and we'll get to this, we get an explanation for that disdain. But at first, I was just amused by her disdain for, non-Starfleet people.
Well, yeah, Bob, you're not going to join Starfleet and be with everyone else.
Yeah. So did you have any theories about why Mariner's self-destructive hero compulsion was especially on display this episode?
I just thought that was her personality. Like, I thought that had always been her personality. She's just not necessarily self-destructive, want to kill herself, but she's always just kind of willing to take risks. And
Yeah, certainly it always has been a part of it, but it really was ridiculously amplified this episode, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I feel like they emphasized it more here just because, that's what they wanted. I feel like it came out of, in my opinion, I feel like it came out of nowhere.
We'll get to the explanation.
We will, but
yeah. So, Matt, did you remember who Nick Locarno was?
Yes, but I second guessed myself, Bob. I could have had a little nerdgasm again, but no, I second guessed myself and had to go look it up. Yeah, he's basically Tom Paris, the pilot. Like the pilot.
Yeah. I think the episode is called First Duty, and it's a Next Generation episode where Wesley gets kicked out of Starfleet Academy for participating in a cover-up about a shuttle accident that killed a cadet. And the leader of the conspiracy is Nick Locarno, who's played by Robert Duncan McNeil, who will go on to play Tom Paris in Voyager. And they just, basically Tom Paris is Locarno, but they renamed him so they wouldn't have to pay royalties to the writer of the episode First Duty for every episode of Voyager.
See, guys, this is why they had to go on strike.
Yeah, exactly right. Even in the good old days, it wasn't always so good.
I mean, you made a character, and you want to use him again, but you can't. You're like, oh, I don't want to pay that person any money for that character. I'll just make my own. Call him Tom Paris.
So at the beginning, right, we get a list of possible people that the Cerritos might need to go and rescue. We've got Locarno, but we also have Beverly Crusher, 7 of 9, and Tom Riker. Who off that list were you more excited for?
Okay, Bob, at first I was thinking I wanted to see 7 of 9 again, but then I realized this is before Picard.
But maybe we'd finally learn what the hell the Fenris Rangers are.
That's true, but I kind of want to see the new Enterprise. So that's why I wanted to see 7 of 9 again, just to see the Enterprise G.
Yeah. But this is before that. Man.
I know, Bob. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to, but then I realized it was before, so I went with Tom Riker.
Yeah.
Because Thomas Riker, we don't really know what happened to him.
Last we know, he joined the Maquis.
Yes,
and
in
then most
DS9.
of the Maquis in DS9, and then most of the Maquis get slaughtered by the Dominion when the Cardassians join the Dominion. So, yeah, I mean, it's presumably he survived, but he might even have died in that massacre, right?
And we would have had clarity there.
Yeah.
And we would have had a return of Jonathan Frakes. You can't get enough of Jonathan Frakes, so.
Yeah, I think I would lean with you to see Tom Riker too. Although I would be curious to see a little bit of prequel action with 7 of 9 before Picard, and I have no desire at all to see Bev and her son having adventures before Picard. No disrespect to either character, I just don't really want to see it.
Well, we kind of saw that too in some flashback type stuff.
Yeah,
so.
we got a pretty good sense of it, and I guess that's part of the difference is we have a pretty good sense of what she and her son were doing from Picard season 3. We do not have a good sense from Picard season 1 of what 7 was up to before that show.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, Matt. So on the Storm Planet, I mean, initially we see other alien species later, like Cardassians and Orions show up. But initially we have like Ferengi, Romulan, and Klingon characters we've all seen before. They've all been captured by this mysterious ship. And then we've got some other alien species that attacks the Ferengi and the Romulan. And as far as I could tell, and I might be wrong, but as far as I could tell, we don't know who that is and we don't know what species it is.
I didn't have a clue, Bob. Just looking, I was kind of hoping you would know because I don't know.
It looks like it should be familiar, but I guess it's a new species because maybe Memory Alpha updated today, but I looked yesterday and they didn't have anything on it.
Well, hit Bob up on X. I can't say that with a straight face.
Man,
hit Bob up on X if you know what this alien's called.
When you say that, Matt, it sounds like I'm on OnlyFans. I mean, jeez.
I know exactly. Well, to me, it sounds like you're on a drug. Like you're on.
Yeah.
Hit Bob up while he's on X.
I mean, if you've got some Molly, yeah, holler at your Bob. I wouldn't mind some. Did I ever tell you about that episode of that issue of Cassie Kane, Batgirl, where she has to fight Batman because he's on ecstasy?
I think you did, yes. But Batman's been on so many drugs at this point. Like he's...
Well, the best part is the euphemism they use for ecstasy, which is soul. S-O-U-L.
What's the name of it in the new movie? Shoot.
I didn't see it. I just listened to you describe it.
Yeah, you obviously didn't pay attention, you asshole.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. Somewhere in the 2 pages of text, that one word was buried, and I missed it.
Bob, the movie was like
even there.
Yeah, the movie was 2 hours. The podcast was an hour and a half. I saved you half an hour. Shut up.
And it was mostly the podcast on my end was mostly me moaning in pain.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was the Chain of Command episode where the Gull tortures Picard. That was what that episode was.
All right, Bob. Just so in case you're wondering, they're called drops in Gotham.
Oh, that's so lame. Soul is so much better. Not that Soul is good, but it's so much better than drops.
And then in RoboCop 2, it's called Nuke.
I'm watching a Canadian spy show right now that's actually very good, but they have this like wonder drug that's like both. I should have said that because it makes it sound like it's a good thing, but it's like it's both like a hallucinogen and a date rape drug.
Oh my god!
And they're like well, my question is it real? Because they're fear mongering about it like so hard. Like it's like, oh, this is a drug. You could take it, and then someone would tell you to commit suicide, and you would.
That sounds really scary. But you remember like when we were in the DARE program or whatever, and they always told us about these like weird ass drugs that I never actually saw.
Oh, I thought they mostly told us about real stuff. I thought
it was the one that got me was always like the sticker that looks like a frog, and if you lick it, you get something. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, they were warning you about LSD.
Oh, I mean, was that really a problem though back in like '95?
Well, no. The annoying thing about DARE is the entire premise of DARE is it's like premised around like somebody might give you something for free, and they might give you something without telling you what it is, and it's just like. Nah, man, drugs are expensive. That's not usually how people roll with them.
I always wondered that too, but I never knew how to ask. They kind of say like, well, they want to get you addicted, so then you have to pay for it. I think was the logic they used, if I remember correctly.
No, they want to make money right then.
I know they do, Bob. I'm just saying that was the DARE reason.
Yeah. No, it was insane.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking I don't think that's how that works. It's like
I mean, I might be wrong, but I feel like most of the stuff they talked about was real. They just exaggerated the effects and the addictiveness of it. Not to say that drugs aren't addictive.
Yeah, they're definitely addictive. But they, it's kind of like getting free samples at the grocery store. I think is what they kind of.
Oh yeah,
acted
that's
like it was.
totally the logic that Nancy Reagan imposed on the.
They're just passing it out to get you set up, and then they'll start charging you.
I would say I think my favorite Freeman line of this episode is, "Why doesn't he have to park on the moon?"
Yeah, that 3 hour show from the moon, Bob. I watched this episode on an airplane, and I had just been through all that damn all the shuttling and all that crap to get to the plane, and I was like, "Yep, that is the biggest inconvenience I've ever seen." And screw the bounty hunter guy. Of course, I knew by the end of it I was happy, but but screw the bounty hunter guy first.
I also did enjoy the Rutherford line. "Captain, did you know we have pockets?"
But do they have pockets in those outfits?
They do. It's canon. We saw it on screen.
Yeah, but they don't keep their tricorder and shit in it. But they keep it on like a belt loop or something that's like hanging on the side.
No, the pockets is for personal stuff, dog.
Like, what do you carry around in the future? You don't have keys. You don't have a wallet. You don't need a wallet because you don't have money.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't need a phone. They don't have phones.
You put a nice little rock from the planet in your pocket.
No, Bob, they're bad. No, Bob, they carry condoms. That's what they carry in their pockets. Since we mentioned Dale, let's talk about health class, Bob, and how we're all carrying condoms around our wallets.
Well, I feel like that was where I felt like the propaganda came in, because I feel in my memory they were just like, no, condoms don't work reliably. You have to do abstinence. Nothing else works.
Yeah. But everybody was carrying around in their wallets. You could see the it looks like a coin, and then people were really carrying around coins, and they're like, "What are your condom?" Fuck health class. Yeah. Okay, anyway, back to what we're talking about. There's another reference in this show, Bob, that was so random to me. It made me think we were going to see something that I knew shouldn't have been there. They call the bar Muds.
Yeah, which just annoyed me because it's so clearly like stealing valor from Quark, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see Harry Mudd, especially voiced by Rainn Wilson, show up on the show in some capacity.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. But he should be dead, right? Yeah, he should be dead.
But I mean, you remember where he's left in the original series, right?
Actually, no. And is he frozen?
No, he's on the planet full of android duplicates of his ex-wife.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So you could maybe have like an android Mudd that was produced by that planet, right?
And we did see a guy that looked like him at the bar. So.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
It was it was nice. Slight like he had like the mustache type thing going and the sort of look. All right.
Well, speaking of references in the bar, Matt, did you pick up on what the information broker that Captain Freeman thought was a puppet was a reference to?
Yeah, it was Baylock from the Carbonite Maneuver. In that particular episode, it was like the Wizard of Oz, basically. There was this scary alien thing, which we saw in this, but it turned out to be this little kid-looking dude who was just trying to test the morality.
If you go in production order, is the first regular episode of the original series after the two pilots.
And one of the main reasons I know anything about this episode is because I had this trivia book for Star Trek, and I think on the back cover it says, "Do you know the difference between the Carbonite Maneuver and the Picard Maneuver?"
That's rough.
And so it stuck with me.
Oh, and I will say, I don't know if I should tell you that now. Well, I guess I should tell you this. So we are, I said the last appearance of Mudd was on the android planet. But guess who's going to be in the next animated series episode, Matt?
Who, Bob?
Harry Mudd.
Oh,
yeah, it's called Mudd's Passion. That's the one that's coming up. It's a really sleazy episode, as I recall. It's really it doesn't pass the 2020 woke test. So,
well, Bob, let's step back and look at the big picture, though. So far, we've seen an episode where we. Do not promote religion, basically. We have sympathy for the devil. We have an episode we're going to talk about in a minute where it's just this drug-induced trip. And then we have this upcoming episode. I mean, it sounds to me like this 70s cartoons were not very woke at that time.
Very, very, very amoral, Matt. Very amoral.
Are you trying to say the 70s were an amoral time?
Yeah, and that's why I like them. But I guess to get to the main thing that I've been kind of delaying. So we sort of get the big explanation of Mariner's character in this episode. Not just why she's been acting so crazy in this episode, but in general, why she's so hostile to non-Starfleet people, why she doesn't want a promotion, why she's a little up and down, shall we say,
Right.
wise. And it's basically that she was a friend at Starfleet Academy of the Bajoran cadet Cedo Jaxa, who you may remember from the Next Generation episode Lower Decks, the namesake of the show. And Cedo gets sent on an undercover mission, I think with the Maquis or with the Cardassians in that episode, and she gets killed. Or at least she gets killed off screen. And so Mariner's carrying around some big grief, some big PTSD. I don't remember how many years this is after Lower Decks. It's at least like, or the Next Generation episode, it's at least like 5, maybe closer to 10. But Mariner's grieving, and that's kind of why she is the way she is.
Yeah, Lower Decks got way too serious here for me.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, Bob, if we find out Cedo didn't really die and she's actually in cahoots with this Tom Paris dude.
Oh, Locarno. Yeah.
I'm going to puke.
That's a real possibility I hadn't considered. I considered that they would bring her back, but I assumed that was like a season 5 or season 6 thing. I hadn't considered that she would be in cahoots with Locarno, but given that they're both like ex-Starfleet guys, that would make sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling I think you're right. It's going to happen. We'll find out she joined the Maquis or something like that.
Yeah, and I will say, on the one hand, you do have to kind of give it to the show. Like, it is tying itself tightly to the original episode called Lower Decks, so fair enough in that sense. But I wasn't a super big fan of this. Like you said, it kind of makes this, even though I'm generally in favor of serialized plots and more adventurous storytelling from the series, it makes it a little too serious for what is a gag show. And it was, I don't know, it was just a little much.
It really was for this show, and the way we've seen Mariner portrayed up to this point, this just hasn't really been this. Like, I don't feel like she's someone who's been experiencing PTSD. More so, just I thought that was her personality, that she was a risk taker.
Although I don't know, I'm not that expert on the symptoms, and they do try to justify it by it's like the recent promotion is the thing
that triggered it.
Yeah,
because now she's a higher rank than what Cedo was when she left.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this seems like kind of anticlimactic to transition to, but we see Locarno at the end. He is voiced by Robert Duncan McNeil, who, previously voiced Paris on the show and obviously played Paris and Locarno in previous Star Trek. Do you think he's going to be the big bad behind the ship attacks, or do you think it's going to be like, no, I'm actually trying to prevent it?
Bob, in the words of Scott Hall, we know who he is, but we don't know why he's here.
Very profound.
Yeah, so I don't know, Bob. There's so many things that could go in, so many directions that could go with this. I think he probably is responsible for the attacks, but I think those were Lower Decks crew members on that planet, right? Weren't they the people?
Yeah.
So those people didn't die, I don't think. Their ship was blown up, but I think they were transported.
And it is making it seem like maybe the scheme is like less evil than we initially thought it was from how it was built up, since they just harvested the ships and spared the crew, right?
Yeah, maybe they're trying to recruit like more Maquis members through Force. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see. Matt, who was your character of the week?
Bob, it's got to go to Billings and cosplay, because that man dressed like he was the Mandalorian the whole episode.
Yeah, or pulling a Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It was great. I did like Billings and cosplay. I'll give it to Freeman. I like that she had a plan. I like that her plan was specifically about how everybody hates Starfleet. That was pretty satisfying. I always like when Captain Freeman has a plan.
That was really good.
All right, Matt, we're finally going to wind down this mega episode with our final episode of the day, the Filmation episode, Once Upon a Planet. Matt, what is the plot of the Filmation episode, Once Upon a Planet?
It's it's a sequel to the TOS episode, but basically the crew explores Alice in Wonderland fairy tale world.
And what's the TOS episode, Matt?
Shore Leave.
Yes, Shore Leave. Did you remember Shore Leave?
I remember watching it, yes, because I remember it was so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why. I mean, that's the thing. The ones that stick out the most are the ones that just like, you're like, what were they smoking when they made that episode?
Yeah. Just McCoy, in both episodes, both Shore Leave and Once Upon a Time on the Planet. What was it? Once Upon a Planet. It's just McCoy hanging out with the White Rabbit, man. From Alice in Wonderland. Although I will say this, I'm pretty sure I didn't have time to rewatch Shore Leave, unfortunately. but I'm pretty sure there's not a plantation house in the original short-lived episode. And Matt, it's kind of fucked up to have a plantation house show up on this planet, especially show up while Uhura is singing. That's not really a good choice.
Yeah, Bob. When I saw the house, I'm like, they must have stolen those frames from some like racist cartoon from the 20s or something. I don't, because even the style, the animation of the house didn't fit. Like somebody had a really good time like drawing that house, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit.
Matt, did I ever tell you the story of the most racist cartoon ever?
Yes, you did actually, and I think you told us about it on the podcast. It's called
Scrub Me Mama with the Boogie Beats.
Yes, I actually went and watched it on YouTube because I wanted to experience it for myself, which was not which I do not suggest. But if I do not suggest it. But if you're
Matt,
one of those people that likes to see just how awful humans could be in the past, so that you don't make those same mistakes, just go, just watch things.
See, Matt, my sense of appropriateness is changing and maybe even maturing, because I was just going to allude to Scrub Me Mama with the Boogie Beat. I wasn't planning on telling the story because I was like, the listeners don't need to hear this.
Oh yeah,
it's not going to do them. I didn't realize I already told the story on air.
Oh yeah, you've told us. Yeah, but one thing I want to point out, Bob, going back to Star Trek and not the horribly racist cartoon that you made me watch on YouTube. So we all know that Uhura, Bob, can sing from Strange New Worlds.
And from the original series.
I know, Bob, but I'm trying to do it in chronological order. If you think about it, Strange New Worlds is the first time we technically learned.
No, you're right.
See, we can start doing that shit. I pulled that shit on you a couple episodes ago, too, and you didn't catch it.
Oh, do you remember what it was?
No, I'm going to have to go back. It was something weird. It had to do with Chapel. Oh, Chapel and her relationship with Spock. So we knew they already had a relationship from Strange New Worlds, but not the original series.
It was. It might have not. I don't know. Maybe it might have been worded in a. I might have missed it, or it might have been worded in such a way that it didn't trigger me. Yeah. Like the wording here triggered me.
What Bob is trying to say is that sometimes my word salad confuses him.
I wouldn't put it that strongly.
But I'm trying to practice that. It's getting better. That's why we're doing. That's another reason we're doing the podcast, folks.
You're getting better at triggering me, Matt.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So, Matt, were you surprised at how quickly McCoy could run?
It was like Scooby Doo, It's like, that's all I could imagine. It's like they may as well just done his feet in like a spinning thing. Like
it was great. He was really moving, man, moving, doing it. So it was not as important as Uhura taking the con in the Lorelei signal, which is an earlier Filmation episode we looked at. But I do think it is a nice little trivia to note that Eric's getting the con in this episode is the first time a non-human has had the con in Star Trek.
That's right, Bob. Spock never took the con in the original
series.
He's
half human, bro. Half human.
There's still some non-human elements.
There's still some human elements too.
Bob.
There are no human elements in that Eidosian with his 3 legs.
Hey! Stop right there. The word. So if we use your logic, then Obama was not the first black president.
Matt, I believe I did make a somewhat similar argument at the time.
Yeah. Okay. And Bob, that argument fits your argument as well. You're absolutely right. Spock sitting on the con is not the same as Eric sitting on the con because it looks fucking strange.
Well, it's true. I think we also we never actually see Eric's in the chair, right? Probably
we just
animating in the chair would be
exactly.
We just see him in his navigator spot,
like, telling people what to do. He didn't even get to sit in the chair. That's because he's not human, Bob.
Yeah, man.
Non-humans are not allowed to sit in the chair, Bob.
That's pretty messed up, man.
It's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Why didn't they put him in the chair then?
Because animating it would have been a pain.
But they should have had something unique to show there. Like, I don't know, give him maybe the chair altered. Wouldn't it have been cool if they shown the chair like alter itself somehow so he could actually sit in it? That would have been fucking awesome.
That chair can barely swivel. How's it gonna alter?
I don't know. It's like a transformer. I don't know. Fucking like spins out. Lord. I don't know, Bob. There's just some ideas here. I'm just thinking there's ways they could have done this that would have made it more obvious that Eric's was in charge.
Other than saying, Mr. Eric's, you have the con?
Yes, exactly. I want to see Mr. Eric's at the con.
Also, he only had the con until Scotty got back to the bridge.
And that's the other thing. So they put Scotty in the chair, no problems at all.
Yeah, because he doesn't have 3 legs and 3 arms, so it's easy to draw him in the chair.
That's true.
What if it was not just that he's not human? It's just specifically that Eric's has the 3 arms and the 3 legs that makes him tricky.
Yeah, you just put the 3 legs in front of him and have the 3 arms like up in the air. Like it really, I think this is way easier than you're thinking it is.
Matt, you're talking about the show where you just correctly complained about how instead of showing the battle of angels and demons, they just left it on a still image of Earth for the story. And that, this is not a show where they're going above and beyond.
I'm totally gonna AI Eric's on a chair and let you have it. So no
you
problem.
Totally should.
That would be cool. I'm gonna frame that shit, and put it in your.
Matt, you've come up with the only 2 good uses of AI art I've ever heard of. So congratulations.
Bob, hang around with me, and you'll get at least 5 good uses of AI in the next 2 years.
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. All right, Matt. So, what did you think of all the drama in this episode revolving around Maress on the intercom? It was kind of weird.
Okay, this is the first time I've ever really listened to Maress closely because
she didn't talk. I don't even know if she spoke in the prior episode.
I've seen her, and I was like, okay, this is damn Catwoman on the bridge, whatever. So that little purr thing she does after everything she says would be so obnoxious on the bridge. And if I was a communications officer having to talk to other species and I was the one communicating, I would not want to hear that purr after every sentence.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be speciesist and say that Caitians can't be communications officers, but it does seem like she's not the ideal communications officer, right?
Not at all. Does she purr after every language or just English?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Maybe it's just English. Maybe she finds English challenging, but like with Klingon, she's fluent and no purring. I also noted the irony that I think we first saw Maress in the prior episode, but this is by far the most prominent she's gotten in the series. And while she's getting that, we have Sulu and McCoy being harried by a giant house cat on the planet, which was kind of weird. Did you think maybe Majel Barrett was voicing the giant house cat too?
Either her or James Doohan. I mean,
Majel Barrett's nailing the purr, so I figured just give that one to her.
Yeah, and then Doohan wants money, so.
Yeah. Did you dig that quick little image we got of the shuttle bay, including where we see like a shuttle with the nacelles on top instead of on bottom?
It was actually pretty cool because I was like, oh, that's something I haven't seen ever, so nice.
I think we're going to see that shuttle with the nacelles on top in a future episode.
Okay. Yeah, it's very unique looking, not something you used to seeing.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a long distance shuttle, I guess. So, Matt, did you notice the black dude who took over Sulu's station in this episode?
Yeah, and I feel like I've seen him before.
I'd not noticed him before, but he's been in a few other episodes. His name is Lieutenant Frank Gabler, and apparently he's usually Scotty's assistant. He's been around. I think he was in One of Our Planets is Missing and in The Survivor, but I just didn't notice him. And I didn't remember him from prior episodes, but he actually talks in this episode, and he's voiced by Jimmy Doohan, which is maybe not great. Both just
for multiple reasons.
yeah. Not great for the obvious reasons of representation, and then also not great just because probably you don't want Jimmy Doohan having too many conversations with himself. I mean, I think he does as good a job with that as you can, but whatever.
He's like, I can be Scotty. I can be a cat.
Yeah. He can be the devil, as we saw.
Yeah, the devil.
Episode.
He's just filling out his resume, like it is.
Yeah. And then, I wouldn't mind. They should develop Gabler I think they've done a little to develop Eric's and Maress in the novels and the comics. They should develop Gabler some too. That would be cool. Certainly, he's a better assistant to Scotty than that terrible assistant in the JJ movies.
Oh no, I kind of like that dude, the little alien dude.
I mean, I like him in the sense of it's good to have more aliens, but I don't like him in the sense that, God, I hate the JJ movies.
He's like the little Neem Num dude from Cloud City.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good call.
And he also I feel like I forgot to mention this, but I felt like they were going to Cloud City in that other in the Lower Decks episode. that planet they land. It looked like Cloud City from the outside, and then when they came down, it looked like Mos Eisley. So
yeah,
very Star Wars-ish.
I noticed the Mos Eisley influences. I didn't really notice the Cloud City, but you're right.
It was them with. Well, I guess they look like the Imperial officers with their hats and stuff when they're first trying to land.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So I hadn't remembered that the shore leave. Another thing I didn't remember about this episode is I hadn't remembered that the shore leave planet computer wanted to roam the galaxy, creating a computer liberation front. And it seems like this plot point was probably a pretty big inspiration on Lower Decks' treatment of evil computers.
It's like, Captain, they're using our computer to make their own computer. That was my favorite line of that story. And it's like, what you see are these robot arm hand things coming out in their engine room, but there's no gravity. So they're putting together this computer. And you're like, like, that wasn't on the old show. But then you're like, well, I never really saw like everything in the engine room. So maybe. I guess it kind of falls in that category of like Spore Drive and all the crap we never see again.
Yeah, fair. Although, I mean, I had many complaints about Star Trek Discovery, but at least they make clear that the Spore Drive is top secret.
Oh, yeah.
So, Matt, were you surprised by the relative focus on cast members in this episode?
I kind of was. I mean, maybe Kirk and Spock had to be somewhere, like the actors and just...
Yeah, especially early in the episode, they were not in it much at all. They were more prominent towards the end, but they were not in it much at all. And McCoy, Sulu, and Uhura were pretty prominent throughout, which was, not the usual rhythm. It maybe seems like something the show was trying to do midway through its first season. Of like early in the first season, it was very much Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and really just Kirk, Spock. And now they really seem to be kind of trying to push Sulu, Uhura, Scotty, McCoy, right?
Throwing out conspiracy theory stuff here, Bob, but you think Kirk and Spock were paid per line?
Oh, that's interesting. I tend to think no, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm just thinking that could be it, because if they are, then they're only going to use them sparingly. And if you can get McCoy to say like half the show, then you're good.
Yeah, well, and also, as we noticed, DeForest Kelley has really evolved as a voice actor since the first episode.
And Bob, that is why he is my character of the week. Because I haven't seen McCoy have so much action since the movies.
The Man Trap.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'll give it up to Sulu this week. It's nice to have 2 dynamic Sulu episodes in a row. Or actually, that's wrong, because it's two dynamic Sulu episodes in 3 weeks, because Sulu wasn't that prominent in Magicks and Mingus 2 last week, but he was very prominent in the Infinite Vulcan. So 2 dynamic Sulu episodes in 3 weeks, and I really did enjoy his picnic at the end with McCoy, Alice, and the dragons. It was very sweet.
Yeah, it was very. It was a fairy tale ending, Bob.
That it was.
And
So,
with
Matt,
that, we conclude this podcast.
You don't have another pitch for our listeners, Matt?
Well, I mean, I kind of mentioned it already once, but I have this idea that, I wish they would have had a Trek cartoon in the 90s. Like, we need to design that shit, Bob.
Matt, did you hear Majel Barrett just on the microphone a minute ago?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, my cat purred.
Oh. What if we just did that, Bob? What if we just tried to purr after everything we said? I can't even do it. I can't do a purr because my voice is too deep. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's how we should do our podcast now, Bob. Every time we say something, we should purr after it. Or even better yet, what I'll do, Bob, is I'll go in and every single time we speak, I'll just add the same purr effect. What a terrible idea. That's like the worst possible idea ever.
Hey, I will say that while I was purring, my cat started pecking at my face because she was freaked out at the noise I was making.
That's probably what would happen. I wonder if that happens if a human purrs on the bridge.
Yeah. Have you seen that meme of it's like the cat looking confused and it's like the human speaking my language, but getting the accents all wrong?
Yeah, that's a fun game to play with your cat. Honestly, they freak out.
Well, it's weird because it's like the purring isn't something they do among themselves. It's just something they do to manipulate us.
Yeah, and they just
so it's like their outsider language. It's like if you had like an outsider and an insider language.
Yeah, we were having this conversation, my wife and I, about we think that maybe like animals, they're reincarnated. It's like
I can believe it.
So when you're taking care of an animal, you're taking care of somebody's lost soul. You just, Yeah, yeah. That's why they're so nice and they purr and they're happy.
Maybe I shouldn't make fun of my cat so
Yeah,
much.
she's trying to love you, Bob, and she wants you to clean her fucking litter box. That's what she wants.
I should have done that yesterday.
Yeah.
I do need to do that. I do need to do that today before I go and sit in the theaters for 3.5 hours watching Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. You're gonna come back with a big pile of cat shit. She's gonna be sitting there purring like Imress.
Well, no, what she does is she just when I don't clean the cat box in a timely manner, she just pisses behind it.
Oh God, my cat sometimes will my cat will just shit next to the box, and I'll be like, damn it. It's like, God, I had to shit on the floor. Sorry. That's what you humans do too, right? Just... If your toilet's clogged, you just shit on the floor. All right, Bob.
All right. Well, this has been a great, very, very feline episode of Star Trek Lower Decks versus Filmation Star Trek. We are part of Uncanny Treks. I am Bob in Cascadia, trying to keep my cat from knocking over my microphone. That is Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.